Welcome to this section about Delft Spatial Display and the new features and enhancements that were introduced in 2020. So just to start off, why do we want to use the spatial display in your Delft application? Well, that's because spatial displays can be quite effective in communicating information. Nowadays, a lot of information that we receive have a spatial component. Of course, that's the case for remote sensing data and numerical weather predictions or radar data, but it's also very useful to look at sensors, stations that we have available and to see the values in a spatial sense. So we can also include GIS data or GIS data services, many shapefiles, and so all in all, the spatial display within Delft is a display that a lot of organizations use. And one of the nice features, of course, is that spatial displays can be interactively linked to other Fuse displays, so this makes it a quite dynamic display. Before we go to the demonstration, just a quick overview of the different toolbars and layers that we have available to interact with in the Fuse application. On top you have your toolbar where you can find several functions. Of course, a big map layer that shows your data, but can also show shapefiles and other data layers. On the bottom you have a time slider which you can use to control what you see in your map layer, and then on the left side you can configure several filters for the most common spatial data that you look at, and potentially a legend that you can configure. There's various options in the interface to interact with. We won't go through all the functions, but you'll see me using some of these buttons during the demonstration. If you want to interact with the spatial data, there's several ways to do so. I'll be showing some of them, but in general, you can click on the spatial display, draw a point or even draw a polygon, and then you can do something with the point and polygon, showing the data, showing averages. What I will be demonstrating right now is these enhancements that you currently see on the screen. I will be running through each of these new features and demonstrate them in a test application. I hope you find these new options interesting and useful for your organization. Let's dive in. Here we are in a standalone application, in this case a training application in France, and we're in the spatial display. This display has several tools available to you in the toolbar that you can use, and you have your general functionality of zooming in, zooming out with your mouse, and some finer control here in the time slider. In this case, I've selected a precipitation product, and we can see in the display the scene playing out. You have your basic functionalities like a predefined zoom extent, zooming, panning, and all that stuff. One of the features that I want to demonstrate right now is related to viewing some information about the product. We have an information button over here that allows you to show information about the product. In this case, it is displaying the names of the departments. We also have labels that you can enable and can turn on or off, and these are actually configured in our case for the catchments. So the information of the spatial data has been aggregated to a catchment level, and with this button turned on, we can actually see that information. So that's all nice. in this product there's not a lot going on, so let's switch to the rainfall forecast for the catchments and go to the period where something is happening. And now when we play the scene, we can see information on the screen with respect to the number, the precipitation rate. One of the new features of Delft Views is that you can exclude the showing of information for certain class break labels. Currently I've configured a default legend, and that legend does not have that inclusion. I can, however, select a different class break, and now you can see that all the departments that have precipitation rates that are lower than the bracket that I configured, in this case lower than 0.2 millimeters, they will not be shown on map. This gives a nice clear view and presents you with information that's useful without cluttering the screen. Let me turn off these value labels and show you another way to interact. Let's say that we want to see some information. Well, standard feature of course is double clicking and it will take you to a display. What you might have noticed here is that we're not just being presented with point information about the specific product that we had selected, the rainfall forecast. We're actually taken to a pre-configured display which contains additional information. This is a new feature of Delft Views 2020, the option to configure and link pre-configured displays to a spatial display. When I select a spatial product that we didn't configure to link to a display group, if I then double click here, I will just get the point information of my spatial product. So that function is as you're used to, but in the case of a pre-configured display group, we get a nice view as shown just before. So let's go to another interesting new feature of the spatial display. What you just saw was showing point information. Now, let's say we select an ensemble product. So, for example, the rainfall forecast ensemble. Double clicking here gives us time information, but it's giving us the information for that particular ensemble member. We can see it here on the left. We have the GFS product ensemble member 0. If I want to show another ensemble member, I can go to my spatial data and I can select a different ensemble member to show here in the data display. We have a button up here, the ensemble thumbnails button, and here you can select the ensemble member that you want to view. You can see a little product label here in the bottom left corner. So selecting the first ensemble member over here, and now double clicking gives us the information of that ensemble member. One nice trick for the ensemble thumbnails is that you can select the first ensemble member and then drag the bottom right corner to rescale the icon size. This allows you to show all the ensemble members, to quickly select the member that you're interested in or get a quick overview, or you make them a little bit bigger so you can actually see a little bit more information and how the different ensemble members differ between them. But this brings us also to some other new functionality. Now we just looked at an individual ensemble member. In 2020, it's now possible to view all ensemble members based on interaction with the spatial display. We have our point selected, and now we can go to this little button and show the ensemble time series, or alternatively we can Alt double click. And now we're being brought to a display that shows us all the ensemble members, and we can see it here on the left in the table as well. This feature has been developed to be very efficient with your computing power, so there shouldn't be any problem in showing that information directly on the screen. Everything is cached nicely. All the data extraction so far has been based on point selections and then showing the information either by clicking, double clicking, or alt double clicking to show the ensemble information. So in this particular case, we have configured Delft Views to also calculate the precipitation on catchment level. And we can view that information, and we just saw the value labels as well. What if we want to get information from, for example, a province level or even the country level? We can do that by using the data layers. As you can see here, you can make them visible by selecting the data layer option in the tool menu. What we can do is go to the rainfall forecast, for example, so the actual spatial data that has not been aggregated to a certain level. And here in the metadata we can see that the shape for France has been configured. So we select that, and now a new feature is that we can directly show some statistics and time series for that area. And over here you have that information directly available in the time series display. This is on a country level. On a province level, let's say that we want to get some information from Bretagne. First we need to deselect that one, get Bretagne selected, and then we can show the information for this particular shapefile. That's pretty useful and on-the-fly information that you get available from your spatial display. Another feature that you can see right here is that we have the shapefile here interactively available to us to show some time series information, but there might also be other relevant information that's associated with these shapefiles. What we can do in 2020-02 is linking the spatial display and the configured information to the configuration metadata. In this case, we have the province's shape selected, and in Delft Views there's an associated CSV file or potentially a shape DBF file that contains metadata. With the config metadata display, which I have down here, we can directly show that information. We can actually see that there's a DBF file that contains all the metadata information for the provinces, and directly Bretagne is selected because we have that open in the spatial display. So this is an interactive selection. If I select another province, you will see that the corresponding selection will be made in the configuration metadata. Depending on the metadata that you have configured, the CSV files or the DBF files will populate this particular field, and you can see all the available information that might be of use to you in your day-to-day operations. This is better appreciated when you undock your windows, which I will not be able to show effectively during this webinar. Speaking about interactivity, another new option in 2020-02 is to connect your data feed to your spatial product and your spatial display. For example, what we can see in this selection of the precipitation GPM product is some information in the lower left corner that highlights when the last import was of this product, Thursday, the 25th of February in this particular case. This link is put in the configuration and it corresponds to the information that you also have available in your system monitor. So here in the import status, we have the data feed for that particular spatial product, and we can indeed see that the last import time was on Thursday the 25th of February. That's a small little feature that can be helpful when you're assessing your spatial data. This brings us to the end of our demonstration of the new features and enhancements of the Delft Fuse spatial display. I hope you found these new features inspiring and useful. There are some additional features which I didn't demonstrate related to a seamless integration, which is now also available in the spatial display for external historical grids. And additionally, some options to now display true color imagery with 3 different bands in the spatial display. The streaming of grids, which has been improved, and some functionality regarding the spatial modifiers. If you want to have additional information and documentation, you can go to the public wiki of Delft Fuse, specifically the spatial display image, or you can Google Delft Fuse wiki with additional search words, and you should get to the right place. You can also visit the Delft Fuse forum.